Yeah, so let's, so I will, before I open, I'd like to just read this. So continue to stay comfortable. Doing Nothing, Stephen Harrison. It's interesting, his subtitle here tells you everything you need to know about Stephen's teachings. Coming to the end of the spiritual search. So if you're not ready to end your spiritual search, I wouldn't recommend Stephen Harrison. If you've not begun your spiritual search, maybe I would recommend him a little bit more. But this is just very interesting. I find it very interesting. The body is the meeting point of consciousness and reality, energy and matter, silence and mind. Because it is the point of meeting, it is neither of these qualities and both of them. Perhaps it is more accurate to think of the body as an energy transformer. Physicists use the term wave probability to describe the smallest elements of matter. These elements have quantifiable existence only upon observation. Until the point of observation, they have tendencies or probabilities, but no actuality. The apparently purely physical nature of the body diminishes as we closely observe ourselves. We begin to see that there is a psychic and a somatic aspect, but that neither can be isolated from the other. We can alter our physical state through application of mental focus, such as suggestion, stress, visualization, and perhaps a multitude of placebo effects. We can alter our mental states through application of physical elements, such as drugs, food, physical trauma. With this in consideration, it becomes obvious that great care must be taken with our diet, exercise, and exposure to environmental influences of all types. No book can tell us precisely how to be healthy, what to eat, how to exercise, but our bodies can tell us this. Each of these parts impacts the totality of our psychosomatic condition, which in turn may affect our receptivity to the whole of life. Upon deeper reflection, we may also come to understand that the nature of disease and aging in the body is the movement of thought as memory. This memory may be encoded in the genetic makeup, in the culture of medical practice, in the mental and physical habituations in which we live. Thought as memory perpetuates itself, and in this way we can see that our body, our disease, our aging is an expression of this memory. And now the breathing of yoga. Yes, that last part that Stephen was mentioning is quite fascinating. I think it's very worthy of a deeper contemplation, and not only what he's suggesting as thought as memory in relationship to our physicality, our diseasing, our aging, but also to our self-identity. So this is a beautiful place to really give some consideration to how much of how we identify ourself, how we just how we live in this body, in this mind, what we think of it as a self, what we think of as our personality, our persona, our identity, has to do with this thought as memory. So it's very, very interesting. So let's begin. I want to begin with the larger bolster. And if you don't have the larger bolster, you can use a pillow. I think I will use a pillow instead of my larger bolster. I'm not sure why. It doesn't really matter. Maybe to show that it doesn't really matter. And then let's make sure you have something for your head if that is needed. And you may want to have the smaller bolster over the head, or some weight, like a heavier blanket to use. I'm going to just show you something that works very well to open the shoulders. So what we're going to do, whether you have your large bolster or you have this, you have a pillow, is we're going to sit on the floor and make sure that we put our shoulders. So we're not doing, it's not so much a backward bend at this point. So I'm just putting my shoulder, making sure the shoulders are not draping over the bolster, that I have my shoulders on here. So yeah, so I would probably use some secondary pillows. So this is not giving me enough height. If you have the large bolster, it's a lot firmer than the pillow. You probably have enough height, but you could also add to that if you would like to. So I'm going to place my shoulders. Oh yeah, this is much better. So my shoulders are being supported. They're not draping over. And then the blanket, the folded up blanket, is so the head doesn't become unsafe. So we're not into the neck area. So if you need to bring the head up, depending on what's going on in the neck, we just want the shoulders really elevated and supported. Yep. And then you can let the legs relax out. And then not quite yet, but I just wanted to show you this one thing. What we're going to do is we're going to let the arms just come over the head. So if the shoulders are very tight or you're feeling a little unsafe with just the weight of the arms, don't use anything else. Don't interlock the fingers. Yeah, so you can just let the arms just dangle over the head. And if they immediately just go to the floor and your elbows bent, you can straighten out the elbows a bit. If they go to the floor and you're not feeling anything in the shoulders, I would bring this up just a little bit higher, maybe even another pillow. Also, you could interlock your fingers, yeah, press the palms to the ceiling. So this is going to tighten up the shoulders. And then when you bring the arms back with the fingers interlocked and the palms pressing out, it just goes a little bit deeper. It kind of contracts into the scapula. What I also enjoy is to take this small bolster and put it over my head on both palms, palm facing up. Again, you could use a weighted blanket. So this kind of prevents the elbows from bending too much. And if there is a gap between the hands and the floor, the weight of it presses down and it just deepens into the shoulders. And then it really reminds me not to bend the elbows if I can avoid it. So just a few things to play with. Yeah. So when you're ready, let's do that. Either one of these variations, just the arms dangling. You could even do one at a time. You could bring them a little more out to the side. If again, you're feeling a bit unsafe in the shoulders or something is painful, not in a good way, you could interlock your fingers, press the palms outward, let the arms come back, or put some weight on the palms of the hands and really weight into this. Really, obviously meant to just open those and let the shoulders compress and breathe. And when you breathe in, become aware at the end of the inhale and just hold it for a few beats. So you really feel the expansion of the lungs, and you feel the body really absorbing this breath and letting the exhale flow right out of the bottom of the belly. So we're bringing just a bit of dynamic to the breathing. We're not just coming into the pose, letting the mind wander, and the breath is unnoticed. We want to come in and out of noticing the breath. And so to fill the lungs and to hold the breath a bit, this is very, very therapeutic for the body, but it's also a reminder that you are breathing, that there's a fullness to the inhale and that there's an emptiness to the exhale. We want to feel that, and that can be interpreted in many ways. And oftentimes I will, almost in passing, I will mention this very interesting process to be explored called pendulation. So it's a lovely thing to bring into one's immediate experience. So pendulation applies to really all of our capacity to experience the physical body itself, the emotional body, the mental body, and I would suggest at some level even the ethereal or spiritual body. And it can be very, very important if we're interested in cultivating really true balance and equanimity. Balance and equanimity that provides us with a very, very deep sense of well-being. So we're not simply reacting to life, we're not playing catch up and trying to undo. And so to feel the physical aspect of pendulation, and especially this practice in particular is very good to explore it. It's our willingness to listen so carefully that we can come right to the edge of discomfort that is not harmful, not painful in an injurious way, but that something is happening that we can be present with. But of course, we wouldn't want to stay at this edge of discomfort. So we want to know and we want to practice how and when to withdraw back into release. And of course, we don't want to stay in the release because then we would just atrophy. We want to then move back along the pendulum to that place of discomfort and release, discomfort and release. And of course, one of the things that we hope in the framework of this particular class is that's naturally built in. But if it's not, this is for you to explore. That if we get to the point where this is just not feeling good, I've gone too far, I'm not sure, feels unsafe, then we take the responsibility to back away from it and relax out of it. So, just on a physical level, yes, and we can then apply this to any physical activity that we do, walking and running and exercising and working, that reaching a point where it's a safe therapeutic limit, and then backing away and resting. And then again, the wave begins to build again, and we go back into the energy of activity. We go back into the yang, we come back into the yin. But I think it's also interesting to explore this, whether this is matters of the heart or matters of the mind. So if we are dealing with a psycho-emotional issue, we want to deal with it. We want to be able to handle the stress of it. We want to be able to handle the complication of it, but only again to that point where it feels safe, where we're feeling effectiveness. And then how do we back away from it? How do we then release and rest, breathe, come into a place of clarity and neutrality, and then let the wave again build and deal with the issue as it is. And then another way to look at this, and I am seeing more and more how important this is to extend this to every area of our life. So we now live in a world where we are, continually taking in information on a global environment, and we want to feel what's happening. We don't want to be isolated in our cocoon of safety. So we want to pendulate into the depth of despair and suffering that is so prevalent in the world. Feel it truly, but again, not past a point where it feels unproductive or not safe. And then we want to pendulate back into a place to feel gratitude and our sense of safety and joy and all of the gifts that we have, until we're ready again to let the wave go back into what we want to experience. So whether this is in the collective, in the personal psyche, in our emotional tone, or our soma, this is very, very individual in how we pendulate, how we go deeply into something, we feel it, we examine, we contemplate, we even maybe push the edge to see what's beyond what we think our edge is, but then knowing if we're going to stay in a sense of balance and equanimity, we must come back to rest and safety. So before we relax the arms, if the arms are indeed still over the head, let's again go back to our breathing, the fullness of the inhale, and just hold it for a bit. And then the release of the exhale, and just letting the exhale really flow out of the body. And even at this level, feel this quality of pendulating. So we can only inhale so much before it becomes uncomfortable. And so something that is life-giving and necessary at some point needs to flow to the other end of the spectrum, which is the exhale, and the same thing with the exhale. So what a beautiful, direct teaching the breath can always provide for us in terms of this beautiful balance that we are endeavoring to cultivate. And so if you indeed have your arms still over your head, let's just release them, please. So just relax the arms and just put them in a comfortable place, and we'll just stay here for a bit longer and just feel what's happening with the shoulders. And one more thing about pendulating is that what's really interesting about it is that there's no right or wrong way to do it, is that the teaching is built into it. So if we go too far, and if we pendulate to one extreme, then that in itself will teach us. So listening to our individual rhythms is very, very important. And I think this ties into what Stephen was saying, that whatever the area that we're exploring, no book or outside expert can really tell us how to be. Certainly they can give us wonderful counsel, but ultimately it's our own body and our own heart and our own mind that is really making this journey. So being aware of pendulating is a beautiful way. If we rest too much, if we're become lethargic, that's going to teach us something. So how to then begin the flow back to activity. Okay, so let's come out of this. So you can put your feet on the floor and just roll off to your side. And let's take a bit of a rest here. Hopefully this wasn't too strenuous in the back line. So we'll just rest for briefly. Either you can stay curled up on your side or lay flat on your back. Just give the shoulders a bit of a rest here. Good. So let's come on up now, please. And let's extend the right leg out. I'm going to take this left leg and bring it back. So I'm going to suggest to use either that big pillow that I just used. And if you're using a pillow, it just has to support the whole torso and the back of the head. So you may, if your pillow isn't long enough, build it up so it can do that. So what we're going to do is first we're going to come forward with this. And this alignment of ankle and knee doesn't have to be, you don't have to align the ankle with the knee. If you need to open this leg out a little bit. So the left leg is bent back, but not so much opening that we go into a different pose. We're not going into the pose where we open the leg back. We're trying to keep it relatively close to the right leg. But what I'm saying is if you need to flare the ankle out a bit, open the leg a bit because of the pressure on the knee, please do that. Yep. And then we're going to have the large bolster or a pillow coming back vertically from sitting on the floor from the low spine all the way back to support the head. We're going to come forward first. And then when we come up from the forward bend, we're going to lean back and place the end of the pillow or bolster in the lower back. Come into the supported half saddle pose for the backward bend. Also keep in mind that if this once coming back is going to obviously pressure the knee and the quadricep and the hip, not to mention the back. So you can always lift your bolster up onto a secondary bolster or some more pillows. So you can angle this up as much as you need to. So then this takes the compression off. We always want to be in the depth that is like, oh yeah, I'm feeling it. Yeah, all these different points, but I also can relax into it. So that's completely up to you. Yep. So set that up for the back. Right leg is nice and relaxed. And then, of course, if you need your bolsters forward to lean on, then you'll just have to shift them. I just want to show you where we're going because we're just going to come up out of the forward bend, shake it off a little bit, and then go into the backward bend. Yep. Good. So let's start to come forward. And so this shouldn't really compress the knee too much. Yeah. So there's nothing really, it's the back flexion that does that. So coming forward here should be fine for the knee, I hope. Depends on your knee, I guess. And then support yourself as you need to and just allow yourself to kind of sink in. Yeah. Kind of soften in. Yeah, always making sure on these forward bends that we're not extending the upper body out. We're not trying to lengthen the spine here. That the weight of the torso then is going to pull on those intrinsic lower back muscles. So we're really always initiating these yin forward bends from the lower back so we can feel what's going on there. Yeah, this is how a lot of yoga injuries happen, is that we extend the weight of the torso, shoulders, head out. That's a lot of weight. And it's pulling on those lower back muscles that may not be prepared. So we soften the lower back, round it, feel it, support it, and then come to a place where, this is perfect for me. I'm in the right spot at the right depth, and then relax into it. And also, when you begin to invite this exploration of pendulation into your practice and into your life, it never has to be an either or. So it doesn't have to be I'm either in the posture or I'm not. So sometimes just knowing that you can withdraw just a bit gives the body a very positive signal. And then at some point, if the body is saying or inviting you, oh, I could make an adjustment and go a little bit deeper, maybe remove the bolster, whatever happens to be. So it can be very, very subtle as well. And then, of course, once we start to feel this flow of pendulating, if we want to deepen this, if we really want to sit in this quality of balance, this quality of equanimity, then we let go of any hierarchy we put on either end of the spectrum. So this is something that often catches a lot of us off guard, is we just have a lot of programs and a lot of conditioning that one end of the spectrum is somehow superior to another end of the spectrum. So when we can really start to see that a true balance comes with an understanding that there is no hierarchy, and how do we then personalize this so we're just feeling at our optimal. And this is encoded in the informational grid of the body. Your body knows this. So this is, if we're going to call anything a practice, this is the practice, this is the study. is feeling that I am pendulating at the rate and in a way that is uniquely beneficial to me. Okay, so let's come on up from here, from the forward bend. So we're going to keep everything the same. The right leg is out, the left leg is back. But just take a moment here and assess if the knee needs a little breath here, if it needs a little openness. It's perfectly fine at this point just to open it out. Yeah, so take your time with this. Always taking our time on the geometry of the body and the setup and the descent, because we want to be there for, as you know, a good amount of time. So when you're ready and you bend this knee back, or maybe you've left it there, the left knee, do make sure whatever you're tucking into the lower back is nice and snug so it doesn't slide away, whether it's a pillow or this bolster. And then just allow yourself to soften down onto it. Yeah. And again, if you get part of the way down and the body is starting to give you some signals of maybe not so good, then elevate that bolster up as much as you need to. And then if the back of the head is comfortably on the bolster, fine, or your pillow, or if you need a little something for your head, that would be up to you. And then make sure the right leg really is relaxed out. So you're not holding the quadricep at all, the hip, the foot can relax off to the side. And then we have the left hip, quadricep, knee, and the ankle, maybe the arch of the foot as well, not to mention this backward bend. Another reason to occasionally hold that inhale for a few beats. There's many reasons for it, but one that I particularly enjoy is it can be a reminder that your body is literally absorbing oxygen. So it reminds you that this breath is going far beyond the boundary of your lungs. The entire system is absorbing this oxygen as fuel and life and energy. And also it helps us to slow down. It helps us to feel like the slowing of the breath, the slowing of the heartbeat, the relaxation right into the fabric of the body is a beautiful end of that pendulation. So to really deeply feel that, to feel this inner sense of resting. And also the same thing with the exhale. If we can linger a bit at the end of the exhale and not just habitually allow it to go back up into the inhale, this is often a reminder of just the incredible subtlety of exhaling, the incredible subtlety of bringing your awareness to this lower part of the body, the digestive area, the reproductive area, in a very relaxed way. So the exhalation allowing this softening, this lingering, and just more subtle, more subtle, more subtle. And if you'd like, just to return to where we opened with, if you'd like to just bring your arms up over your head here, this can be lovely. So now obviously we're adding the element of the lumbar compression. So the weight of the arms now undulating down the spine into the lower back and the pelvic area, just with the weight of the arms. Such a lovely, each one of these poses is such a lovely lesson in connectivity. And we move something and so many things respond. So we always want to be exploring this. So we'll come on out of this now. And what we're going to do is two things at once, really. You're going to start to roll over to the right and release this left knee. And then you can support yourself on your right arm and just roll off your pillows or your bolster. and you can come into a fetal position or lie flat on your back. Since we did forward and back, we're going to take a little bit of a rest here. So wherever you're most comfortable here. And one of the things that we want to explore, and this is really more intuitive than anything. So when we talk about thought as memory and all of the sort of elements that memory is holding and affecting our psychosomatic condition in the present, so certainly yes, but also we're interested in the biological memories, the old memories, the ancient memories, this sort of elemental memory, this ancestral memory that the body has, that the psyche has, that the heart has. So this is why we relax deeply into the body without any kind of map, without any sort of goal or agenda, because through this relaxation, through this stillness, through this not knowingness, then these other energies can present themselves. And sometimes we get a clear insight or we get an intuitive shift. And other times it's just cumulative. And over time, the body starts to shift. We start to drop elements of habits that are not serving us and look in different directions. So it's very deeply intuitive. And this relationship between the thought memory, the mental memory, and the biological, intuitive, somatic memory is really always what we're exploring in this practice. Okay, let us come on up then, please. And so same thing on the other side. We're going to extend that left leg out and we're going to bend this right knee back. And again, make any adjustments that you need to make. Open it, flare out the ankle if you need to, whatever works. Make sure the left leg is relaxed. So again, we're going to have something set up back here, pillows or bolsters to support this backward bend. But first we're going to come forward. So if you need it forward, and again, we can angle it up if you need to do that. Good. So again, what I was saying before, we're not taking the upper body out and forward. This is too much weight for those intrinsic muscles of the lumbar to support. We're starting the forward bend by relaxing and rounding and softening the lumbar area. And then we can incrementally find a place that feels like, oh, this is where the resistance is. This is where I stop and explore. We don't have to touch the forehead to the leg or the forehead to the floor. We don't have to do anything. We just follow the simple physical feedback we're getting from the body moment by moment. And in many ways, this exploration, this thing we call yoga, is it's really a releasing on this hold of the contraction of our identity and our persona. So that's a very interesting thing, that our identity and our persona, these are not solid traits. You know, these are things that we picked up along the way, that we superimposed on our energetic beingness. It's a contraction. So what yoga is saying is please take the opportunity to sink below this contraction, sink below the contraction of persona, identity, a sense of self even. And typically two things can happen when we sink below this contraction. The first is disintegration. So things just naturally start to fade away, disintegrate, that no longer really serve us, or that we actually see the illusion of them. They're just no longer necessary. They've been a burden. And the second thing is reintegration. And then we begin to cultivate only what is necessary for us to hold ourselves in a transparent lightness, in a positive sense of well-being. And this is not to be taken as philosophy or theology or mysticism. This is to bring our direct experience to see how we identify the masks and masks and masks of persona. Are they something solid and real? Or is this just something that we have then contracted into? And again, this contraction being typically very old, it goes way back. So sinking below this depth of relaxation into the wave and particle of our beingness, yes, then we can then let go, disintegrate, and then reintegrate. Okay, so let's come on up from here. Yep, and if you want to give this right knee a rest, you can open it out. And we'll put it back. Yeah, so before we know it, we'll just be teleporting all over the place, huh, with all of these waves and particles. Unless we already are. Okay, so we're going to go into the back bend now. So you've got your support, length of the torso. Tuck it in. So we're really feeling first the support in the lumbar. Yeah, so I'm taking this nice and slow. Yeah, if the right knee wants to pop up a little bit, let it do that. Even here, you could open it out a little bit if it needs a little bit more space. You might decide second side here, you need to elevate that bolster or the blanket or the pillows, and then we'll relax the head back and down. And again, considering the ankle and the knee and the quadricep and the hip and the compression in the back. And obviously to be here for some time, so feel free to adjust if an adjustment is called for. Another reason that you could breathe a bit deeper and retain the breath for a few beats is that you can begin to assess the volume of air that your lungs are holding. So your lungs have a lovely elasticity to them. And if we're breathing habitually, they tend to lose that elasticity, and the volume of air that the lungs hold is just decreased. And this will certainly affect many things, particularly our energy levels. So to breathe in deeply and then hold it, you get to see, could I take a little bit more in? What is this lung capacity? What is the volume that these lungs can hold? And certainly the exhalation then is a preparation to take in more air. So if we can start the movement and the release and the flexibility of the respiratory diaphragm in this process, this is an intimate part of your lung capacity. So we're breathing, we're thinking, we're feeling. So these are activities, and we're also noticing that these activities are appearing within a clarity. We could call it awareness, we could call it a clarity. So this is really the nature of our true state, is this clarity. So if we get drawn into the thinking, drawn into the feeling, drawn into the physicality, nothing wrong with that. That's a valid exploration. But also we're attempting to stay aware that our groundedness, our natural state is this clarity. And then allowing this arising, this curiosity, this exploration, but also then allowing a softening back into the sense of clarity. So just another way to pendulate. I direct my attention outward. I direct my attention into the nature of something I'm curious about, but then I relax that attention back into a simple, open, aware sense of clarity. So many ways that we can practice this pendulating. So once again, if you'd like to bring your arms up over your head, this would be a nice time to do that. And just again, to feel the sense of connectivity. And then when you're ready, we'll just roll away from the leg that's bent, straighten it out as we roll off. And then let's prepare to take a rest here. So we'll take a little bit longer rest here since we just did both sides of this. So let us come on up, please. And what I have done is I have folded my blanket into a nice square pad. So you could use the large bolster for this if you like. It works just as well. So if you have the large bolster and you want to use it, I'm going to do it with this. So I've just folded this up almost to approximate a yoga block. If you have a yoga block, you could use that as well. But I like the softness, so maybe not use the yoga block. So very simple here. We're just going to simply place our pelvis on this, and then we'll open the hips a bit with it. So the nice thing about the blanket is that you could also make it a little higher than the bolster. So the height is not a bad thing here, depending on how your pelvis is doing. So what we would do is just put whatever you're using You could even use a couple of pillows, but if they're too soft, it's going to cradle the pelvis more than compress it, and we want to compress it. So I'm just simply putting something behind me, any of those things I mentioned, and elevating my hips and placing the back of my pelvis on it. Yeah. And then keeping the feet on the floor, and then letting the upper body come back and down. So we keep the feet on the floor in case we need to make some adjustments, but also to protect that lumbar area to make sure that this is good and stable. And so almost nothing in the lower back, maybe some residual sensation there, but this should feel very firm and stable. So right below the pubic bone, the sacral area, the pelvic area, and then we can let the legs relax out. So we're going to just stay with the legs relaxed out, but at some point what we'll do is we'll keep that left leg where it is relaxed out, and we'll bring the right foot up and under, probably up and under that left thigh, and really let the weight of that whole leg draw down to the floor, and this will pull. So as hip, lumbar area. But let's keep both legs out first, just so we can settle into the pelvis for a bit. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll leave the left leg extended out, and you can just slide that right foot up. And I'm suggesting under the left thigh, but certainly could be under the left knee, and just kind of play with it. And you'll feel then as you let that right knee go off to the right and soften down, it's going to pull. It's going to pull. So just play with the angle of your range of motion and see where the best spot might be. And often we wonder, is it structural? Is it muscular? Is it fascial? Is it energetic? And the answer is always yes. It is always a combination of all of these things. So we're attempting to spend time with our body, and instead of having to uh, kind of penetrate this mystery, figure it out, need to know, allow the body to communicate something to you. And this is often a very fine line, because typically the intuitive uh, feedback that we get from this quality of quieting into the body, it's not really about giving us specifics. It's not really even giving us direction. It's just giving us an openness. It's creating an openness to, in a way, to guide, to guide us into here or there, or something to explore. So we don't want to superimpose our need to know, our brilliant and uh, typically overdeveloped intellect. We don't want to superimpose that on our intuitive intelligence. We're trying to allow the intuitive intelligence to, you know, communicate the way that it does, and it's different for everyone, and it's often different for each of us, uh, depending on our circumstances. So if you do still have that right leg bent and up and under that left thigh, let's straighten that one out now, and we'll just let's let that right side just unwind a bit before we bring the left leg up. Good. And so now, if you're ready, we'll leave the right leg extended and we'll slide that left foot up. Find a nice spot for it under the right leg. Let the left knee leg drift off to the side. And if you do find yourself drawn to something that is not really serving you, always take the opportunity to rest back in this sense of clarity. So the clarity is without um, attributes. The clarity is without objective experience. So very simple. If you find yourself drawn to an experience or something that you're exploring, and intuitively you know it's not serving, it's not necessary, then just withdraw. Just go back to clarity, go back to inner quietude. Take a moment, breathe, relax, and then just wait, be patient, and see where then is the attention drawn to, where is the curiosity drawn to. but we don't need to allow something that's not serving us, something that may be discursive or distracting, to then trigger something else and trigger something else. And before we know it, we're in this mental maze. We don't have to stay in the mental maze, and we don't have to work our way back out. Trying to get out of the trap is the trap. Just relax. Relax back into this openness, this just pure, simple awareness. You're just aware that you're aware. You're aware that you're aware, and you can choose to direct that awareness and bring it into attention, but not necessary. Good. So let's relax that left leg out now. So both legs are relaxed out. And then one of the things I like about, not using the yoga block all the time and something soft is that we can then have some nice slow movement here. So let's take this time to then just have some movement. Lots of things you can do. You can bring the knees up to the chest, and you can extend both legs up towards the ceiling and then open them out and open into the inner thighs and the groin. You could bring the knees into the chest and sway back and forth. You could extend one leg up and interlock the fingers behind the calf and bring that leg back towards you. You can start to roll into a forward bend by bringing the knees over the head and noticing how this feels. So just encouraging this, unwinding of this pelvic area. You could just have the knees go back and forth. So just very, very, it's just a complicated area, this pelvis. So we're constantly wanting to give it this level of attention and move with it slowly. And then whenever you're ready, we can just roll off of this, whatever you have, and we'll roll onto your side. And just take a little bit of time here. We're going to use this pad again, so just take some time to rest. And back on it we go. Good. So let's come on up if you're ready. And we're going to take that same pad. Yeah, so take the pad. If you use the bolster for the pelvis, you could use the bolster for this, but I'm going to really recommend using the pad. It's just a little bit different. So it's just a different area. Since we were direct in the pelvis, I wanted to be direct with this pad. So just fold up a towel or a blanket, and then we're going to sit in front of it again this time, but instead of the pelvis, we're going to bring the mid back. But unlike the first thing we did with the shoulders that were on the support, I'm going to get my blanket. This time the shoulders are going to drape over it, and I'm going to shimmy my body back so the upper edge of the blanket is right under my scapula or just barely touching. So you want to, depending on the width of what you're using, you want to be away from the lumbar area, but not fully up onto the scapula. So I'm a little bit on the shoulder blades, but not much. Yeah, so this is good. So a nice folded blanket, really arching the thoracic area. And then if it's too much for the neck, obviously put something under the head. Yep. And then the legs relax out. The arms are going to just be relaxed to the side. So we have just a very direct mid-spine compression. Another area that we can bring this dynamic of pendulating that's very, very interesting. And I certainly think that it has a direct impact on our psychosomatic condition is the polarity of simplicity and complexity. So we have the direct capacity to uh, relax in a state of simplicity. And what I mean by that is to see that whatever is happening is the only thing that could be happening. That what is unfolding in the moment, right in front of us, that nothing else could be happening, of course, unless we then begin a conceptual journey. And so typically, then the conceptual journey brings us to a place of complexity. Not always, of course, but I'm just using very broad strokes here. So we can be very, very simple. We can just breathe and we can just allow our sense perceptions to take in the environment, register what we experience, and just allow the immediacy of that presence. So simple, so relaxing, so direct. And at the same time, as humans, we have this, I'm not sure if it's a gift or if it's a curse, but we have this incredible capacity to go into complexity. And so, of course, we're never talking good or bad or right or wrong. We're talking dynamic. And are we able to find a healthy spectrum with this? Can we spend time in this just utter simplicity of direct experience and really appreciate and really take in how profound that is? That whatever is happening is the only thing that could be happening. And then our need, our habits, our samsaras to draw us into whatever it is we're drawn into, and how that layers and layers and layers till at some point we're in this sense of complexity. And then if we're really maturing, we allow that complexity to unfold into mystery. And then it just releases the contraction of complexity. We feel the beauty of the mystery, and at the same time the mystery then brings us right back to simplicity. So the beautiful thing about this is when we really start to incorporate this pendulation into every aspect of our life, especially the simplicity and complexity, we never have to be stuck. We don't have to stay in contraction. We don't have to keep grasping for expansion. We can allow it to flow one way and flow the other way. So I think this is good here. If you're in an interesting place and you want to stay longer, of course, feel free to do that. It's just so nice to consistently open up this thoracic area. The upper and lower spines have so much more mobility in our natural movement, but the kind of the stickiness of the way the tightness holds in the mid back, it's just nice to start to loosen it up. But if you're ready, let's come out of this, and you can just simply put the feet on the floor, have a little sway in the shoulders, move the arms a bit, and then we'll roll out of this, and we'll take a little rest here. And I do think sometimes that can be, depending on what our habits are in the way that we, explore this life journey, that often mystery can be a missing component, or we just simply forget to take the time to, sit in awe with it. So if we are pendulating from simplicity to complexity and complexity to simplicity, it can become a bit rote, or it can be missing something deeper. So often, if we can allow, wherever we are in this process, to spill over and really take the time to sit with in a very reverent way, in a devotional way to mystery, then that is it's just a way to sort of loosen up the habit of that way that we go from one to the other. Kind of, I guess what I'm also saying is it can also break some of our habits of the way that we sort of navigate. So let us come on up, please. And you can get your large bolster if you have it. I'm going to just use this pillow because it will serve the same purpose. So you can use a pillow, you can use a large bolster, you can use some folded blankets. And what we want to do here is, let's bring the right leg in towards us. So just sitting with both legs out, we'll fold the right leg in towards your body. And then we will take the pillow and put it in front of the right leg. And we're going to take the left leg and put it on this bolster. So I'm putting it the ankle to the knee on the pillow or bolster. You don't have to do that if you want to angle this in some way and open this up a little bit more. I'm just trying to elevate this left side, this left femur out of the hip a bit. So this supported square position, it's really a lovely position. And it kind of ties into what we were doing with the pelvic area earlier. So once you have this set, again, not to bring the upper body out and over, but first to soften the lower back. Relax the upper body, let it draw you in. Yep, so just coming down to whatever your range of motion allows. You could put the hands on either side of you on the floor. You could also just bring the forearms up onto the bolstering. So this is a nice way to support yourself. You could put a folded up blanket in front of you and relax your head on this. I'm trying to sense that your body is expressing. You don't have to put language to that expression, but that there's a very beautiful and intelligent internal dance that is going on. The waves and rhythm, information. And when we take the time to simply feel into that, simply bring a bit of warmth and compression to the physical body and quiet enough to feel it, the subtlety is that the body is expressing. It's expressing deep within itself, and it's expressing to whatever capacity you're willing to listen. This is the language of the body. And actually, it's not really even the body that is expressing, it's really life itself. Life itself, whether it expresses through a cloud or a flower or a fish, it's just expressing. So this is what life is doing. Life is expressing itself specifically through your body, through your mind, through your heart. This is the depth of creativity. And we're simply in a process, the yoga is simply exploring the process of allowing that life force, the creativity of life to come through us as freely and naturally and organically as we can, without blocking it with fear and unnecessary contraction or complexity. So let's come on up from here. And before just going directly to the other side, let's just open the legs out just at a nice width. It's not necessary to go to a full straddle, just a bit beyond, a few inches beyond the hip width, and just come forward here, just to let, especially that left side that we were elevating up. So just get almost just to come back to neutral. So you don't have to go as far down as you usually do. You can even sway the hips a little bit. We'll just use this to kind of neutralize before we go to the other side. Okay, so let's do that. Let's come on up and we can do the other side of this. So same thing, except obviously we'll bring that left leg in towards you and put your support in front of that left leg and put the right leg up. And obviously, this height that I'm recommending, I usually do 3 heights or 2 heights and then just neutral on the ground. So if you want to go a little bit lower, it's really all about just playing with these various angles. So that's what we're doing. So this is what we're doing right now. So let's come forward. And I do think it is somewhat essential to really start to allow the the intelligence of life to express itself through us. And so to see that it's not a personal, this is not personal, this is impersonal awareness, consciousness, the intelligence of life itself. So when we get to that point, the reason I think this is essential, that life is just simply expressing through your particular vehicle, is that life then is recognized as the teacher, the teacher. We may have secondary teachers, we may have people and systems that we go to for information, but the wholeness of life, the life that's expressing through the stars and through the wind, is the same life that is expressing through yourself. So the yoga then is to go deeply into the body. We go deeply into the body, we see that there's only mind. We go deeply into the mind, we see that there is only life. So we in a way, we deconstruct. This is what I was saying earlier about first we disintegrate, then we reintegrate. So we begin to allow this this infinite intelligence, that the best word I have for it is life, and it is expressing itself, but it is also teaching us moment to moment. There's no way to get away from it. And sometimes the lessons are beautiful and poetic and poignant, and sometimes the lessons are difficult and harsh and confusing. So if we can allow ourselves this humility to sit with life, to listen to life, to allow life to express itself through every one of our cells, all of our organs, our brain, our gut, our breath, then this is very humbling. Very, very humbling to be alive and to be breathing, and very beautiful to stay very close to the breath, since we do not know how many we have left, and to allow ourselves more and more to appreciate each breath that we take, and just the gift and the beauty and the aliveness and the intelligence of breathing itself. It is a blessing just to be. Okay, let's come on up from here then, if you will. If you want to, you could stay there as long as you'd like. And then we'll take that leg off and we'll go back into that neutral forward bend. So just legs out and just relax down, and again, soften the lower back. And we'll just come back to neutral for a few moments here. And then let's come on up from there. And if you need any counter positions, feel free. If you would like to come into your own Shavasana to have your final integration, or if you would like to sit up, we will take some moments here to bring our practice to a close. I searched for myself and found only God. I searched for God and found only myself. Namaste.